Greetings, welcome, and thank you for clicking. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing Company, supporting your journey with healing experiences, coaching, and encouragement for life's changes, challenges, and transitions. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make pine tea, white pine tea. Now, we often don't realize it, but the things that surround us in the forest can actually, at times, not always, at times be edible and useful medicine for our healing and our enjoyment. And white pine is one of those wonderful medicines of the forest. If you are interested in learning how to make hemlock tea, this is not the kind that killed Caesar, but rather the eastern hemlock. I am going to link to the video for that you can learn how to make hemlock tea. It's a very similar process, but this here is a small grove of white pine. And the way that you identify white pine is that when it's young, it kind of looks like the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. And really, some of the characteristics of the white pine are that they have long needles, they are thin and pliable, very flexible, they have a wonderful piney scent to them, and a telltale way is to count the nodes, the needles that come off of each node. So if you take a look at the leaves, the needles coming off of each node, if you pull one off or pull them apart and count them, there will be 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to give you a close-up of this so that you can see it, but these are what the trees look like when they are young. They can grow very tall. I have some very, very tall ones all around me, but these needles are the things that are going to be a wonderful tea for us. So let me give you a close-up of this so that you can get a better idea of how to identify. Here we are at the white pine, and like I mentioned, some of the things you're going to notice, this is a soft and pliable kind of a needle. It, of course, has no jagged edges whatsoever. It's very soft, very flexible. And if you did want to use this as a Christmas tree, just like Charlie Brown, it would not hold up any ornaments at all. When they are young and they get snow on them, they droop quite a bit. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I like to do is to go through the woods and pull them up when I see them, and so they aren't bogged down in the snow. I'll do that with hemlock branches as well. So you can see here we have a few young ones growing, and we have here some very tall old ones growing, so congratulations to them, and thank you, dear pines, for trapping the carbon dioxide, which we unfortunately continue to emit at staggering, astonishing, and unfortunate amounts. So anyway, this, let me show you, like I mentioned, is going to have 5 needles on each node. So if you take a look at these nodes where needles come out here at the end, if you pull them apart, you're going to be able to count 5 here. So let's do that. And I'm going to actually pull one off so that we can see. Great. So if we take a look here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so we can identify this as a white pine. Now, when you harvest this, remember, I mentioned this in the hemlock video, please only take what you need. Now, it's a little more challenging to over-harvest hemlock or white pine. It's definitely easy to over-harvest mushrooms and other sorts of things, but over-harvesting white pine or hemlock is going to be a real challenge for you. That's not a challenge that I'm giving you to accept and try to do. But just to say that you can take quite a bit of this, and it's going to be okay for the tree and for the ecosystem. Now, with that, I do also want to say, make sure that you are only taking what you need and not taking too much. Now, I am going to take a little bit more of the white pine, because I'm not going to be in the woods for several days, and I would really like to have a small batch so that I can make some of this amazing tea over the next several days until I'm able to come back into the woods again and get another couple of handfuls of it. So I'm going to harvest a little bit of this. Now, I want to remind you, it's always so nice to leave an offering. Do you have to? Well, no, you never have to give an offering. Just like at church, you never have to put money in the collection plate. But it is a nice way to show the universe and to show the tree that you appreciate what it is doing for you and the medicine that it is giving you. Now, you can give offerings in a few ways. You can, as I mentioned in the hemlock video, you can, if you have nothing else, you can spit. Believe it or not, this is actually a Native American technique of giving something to the land in return for its gifts. So you could spit. You could also sing a song. You could play a tune. Sometimes I'll play my flute. Sometimes I will give Reiki, so I'll send Reiki. Maybe sometimes I'll even just give a hug and a pat and some love, and always say thank you. This is so important, not only to the generous plants that give us their wonderful gifts, but just as a general rule for life, I firmly believe that gratitude is the #1 way to a more fulfilling and meaningful life. And so actually, I have some videos on gratitude that I recommend you check out, but at the very least, you are always going to want to say thank you, and you'll always want to say please too. Ask permission before you take. So ask the tree, ask the plant. This might sound silly, but it's very important. Just like you wouldn't want someone coming to your home and taking your property without asking, you also don't want to do the same to the plant. So ask the plant and seek its permission before taking. And, you know, if you listen, you will get an idea as to whether or not it's okay. Now, I've actually had plants say to me, yes, you can. And then I'll go to take a piece and they say, not there. And then they direct me to somewhere else to pick it from. And so I listen. It's not hard, and it's going to be showing respect and reverence for the tree, which we always want to do. I also want to note that today is the solstice, and so I want to give a shout out to the amazing sun, the sun without which none of us would be here, and without which none of this would exist. Whether you believe in a higher power, a God, or not, or whatever you may or may not believe in, we cannot deny that without the sun, we would not be here. And without the sun, we would not continue to exist. So thank you, sun. All gratitude and praise to you on this blessed winter solstice day. Aho. Now, when you harvest the white pine, you really only just want to take the needles. That's all that you need. You could take off a little bit of a branch here. That is okay. But harvesting the needles is really going to be the best. That's the part that you want the most. I personally, when I can, harvest from the ground. And I often find white pine branches lying on the ground when I hike, and I actually rarely harvest from a live tree. Now, at this time of year, it's a little difficult to find some branches lying on the ground, and so at this time of year, I will harvest from the tree, but generally speaking, for most of the year, I actually will harvest from a branch that has fallen on the ground. You do want to get fresh needles, though. So when you find needles that are brown, that are older, leave those and take the fresh green needles for your tea. So on a live tree, and if this were a branch on the ground, I would take, you know, this whole part, depending upon the size of the branch. I might take the whole branch. I might take, you know, pull off parts of it. On a live tree, though, I'm only going to take the needles, and I'm not going to take as many. I'm going to take them from multiple places on the tree, and I am going to harvest from multiple trees and not all from the same tree. So again, making sure that whatever you are taking with intention, with reverence, with love and gratitude and praise, and that you are not taking more than you need, and that you are harvesting wisely. So thank you, White Pine, for your blessings.
All right, so now we are ready to make our white pine tea. A couple things that I want to say about the white pine tea are that number one, the white pine is wonderful medicine. So it's a very healing tree, and its needles are actually a great source of vitamin C. So you will find that this tea, like the hemlock tea that I show you how to make in the hemlock video, is a very medicinal healing kind of a drink. So this white pine tea, oh, by the way, the hemlock that I mentioned previously that killed Caesar, no, that the hemlock didn't kill Caesar. It was Socrates who drank hemlock and died that way. Not Caesar, of course. Caesar was stabbed. Phew, glad I caught that mistake, or I would hear a lot about it in the comments below, I'm sure. So anyway, how are we going to make our white pine tea? Well, just like the hemlock, there are a couple of ways that you can do it. You can put your water in a pot and throw the needles in and turn on the water, heat it up, boil it, simmer it, whatever, cover it. In this particular pot, I actually had boiled some water and then threw it into this pot along with some needles. The way that I like to make white pine tea, though, is the same way that I like to make the hemlock tea, and that is with a strainer in a single cup. And so that's how we're going to make this tea. So what you do is you just take your white pine and you're going to, you'll notice that I have hemlock in here as well. And take out a few pieces of this. And you can cut these up, or you don't need to, depending upon your strainer and how they fit, but I'm going to be cutting them up. Cutting them up can also be beneficial to help release a little bit more of the flavor. So you just cut your white pine right in your strainer. You even don't need a strainer for this. You could just throw it right into the cup and throw hot water over it, and that's okay too. The strainer just makes it easier to separate the pine needles from the water. That's all. Throw a little bit more in there, and I'm going to show you how much I have in here so that you can get an idea. I'm going to try to separate this out from the hemlock. By the way, you can make white pine and hemlock tea, and these two trees do frequently grow near one another, and so you can easily harvest white pine while you are harvesting your hemlock, and then make hemlock and white pine tea. I will frequently make these together. I also will make white pine and hemlock sun tea. So in the summer, I will throw the white pine and the hemlock in with other herbs and tea, and then throw that in the sun to make some sun tea. So let me show you how much of this I have, just to give you an idea of how much is in here. And I like to get the water a little hotter than I usually would whenever I make hemlock and white pine tea, so that it's going to release a little bit more of the flavor, and it's going to be able to steep a little bit longer and still be warm, because you will want the white pine to steep for longer than you would have your regular tea steeping. So we're going to cover that and let that sit. As we let that set for a minute, I do want to say a couple of things. The first thing that I want to say is that, I mentioned giving offerings to the trees as a thanks, and I do want to make sure to encourage you to not to offer carefully. So make sure that whatever offerings you are leaving in the woods, that they are not out of place and that they don't belong there. So things like, please, no plastic, no metal, things that don't belong in the woods. Even something as simple as orange peels that I actually see people frequently leave when they are hiking actually take longer to break down than you think they do in the forest. Or banana peels, please take those home with you. And so please make sure to leave nothing as an offering that doesn't belong or that will do any damage to the ecosystem. Second thing I want to make sure to say is that I am not a medical doctor. I am not an herbalist. I am not a naturopath. I am not someone who is to be consulted or trusted about medical things, health, wellness, or really anything at all. In viewing this video, please know that it is for entertainment purposes only. Please know that all Standing Stones Healing Company's services are for entertainment purposes only. And please know that any and all services that you use or take advice from or attempt are at your own risk. For more information, please see the Standing Stones Healing Terms of Service in the notes below or at standingstoneshealing.com. Thank you. All right, so here we are with our white pine tea. Now you are going to notice that this has really practically no color. You might think that this is just water, but it is going to be very light. Just like the hemlock tea itself, if you don't brew it with anything else, is also going to be very light and make you think that there's nothing to it. But this is going to have a very light piney scent and a very light piney flavor. And as with the hemlock, I do like to add lemon balm and orange peel and other types of things, even other types of actual tea, to this concoction. But in order for you to see what it really does look like, I decided to just brew the white pine by itself so that you can get an idea of just how very light this is. So, very light. And the flavor itself, of course, very light, slightly piney, and even kind of bark-like too. So, like I said, this is what it's like when you just brew it by itself. I like to include the pine needles with hemlock and with other things, actual tea, herbs, and to brew it that way. But this is what it looks like straight. So, thank you. Please enjoy your white pine tea, and please do check out the hemlock video, which I am including at the end of this, and all of my other videos at Standing Stones Healing. I am Christian of Standing Stones Healing Company, supporting your journey with healing experiences, coaching, and encouragement for life's changes, challenges, and transitions. Slancha. P.S. I feel that it is only fair to show you what it actually does look like after you steep the tea on the stovetop. So you had seen the pot on the stove steeping, and I mentioned it, but I didn't show you what the tea looked like, and I really should have. So I've decided to make a pot to show you what the tea looks like when you allow it to steep for longer, so that you can see what the range is from the very light to the darker and more flavorful. So I drank that pot that was simmering, so I'm going to make another one. You just throw your needles in. I throw the stems in too, no problem. Throw in some water, a cup of water, enough for a teacup, maybe a little bit more as well. Again, to taste, experiment, try, and then put it on the stovetop. And then we're going to take a look and see what the color is and how it tastes. This has been steeping for about 40 minutes now, so let's take a look and see how it looks. So you can see that this is way darker than the very short steep that I did previously, and you can see that this is a very nice color. This will actually get darker the longer that you steep it. So if we were to let this in here for longer, this would get to be a darker color and have a darker kind of flavor as well. So, very light, very nice. So it's really all in how you like it. As I said, please do experiment. White pine is a great drink, very healthy and lovely, especially on a cold winter day. So don't be afraid to try it several different ways and see how you like it. Again, I am Christian of Standing Stones Healing Company, supporting your journey with healing experiences, coaching, and encouragement for life's changes, challenges, and transitions. Blessings to you on your journey.